Hello, my loves. Hello, my loves. Hello, my loves. And welcome to Daddy. Why?
What, baby?
Why'd you just come in? I get on the third hello, my loves.
Why they come in like that? Baby, I'm just looking at you, love.
Well, one more hello, my loves. Welcome to Monique and Sidney's open relationship. How you doing today, Daddy?
Wonderful.
Me too.
And you're Monique.
I am.
And I'm Sidney.
Baby, you know what? Sometimes I be so excited to go into it. I forget that part.
Right.
So thank you.
The greeting is the verbal foreplay before we get into the intercourse of our show.
I like that.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, the verbal foreplay.
Yeah.
Before we get into the intercourse.
Of our show.
Okay, so are we get ready to foreplay or we get ready to intercourse?
Well, we've had the foreplay. It was fast. But now it's time to get into the
Well, I don't think it's time for the intercourse quite yet.
Well, don't do it then.
Can we still foreplay a little bit?
Let's foreplay.
Well, let's tell them what we're talking about today, Daddy.
Tell them, baby.
Tell them what we're talking about today.
We are going to talk about today how do you resolve issues without having conversations about them. And this was spawned by all of the oh little 5 minute ruckus that goes on, and seemingly people have a lot to say, and then the other will say something. But no one's having the time to have a discussion. Everyone's just throwing their opinions around. So how do you resolve the issues that we have in our society, in your life, all around without discussing them?
How do we do that? How do we make it better if we're not willing to have an open and honest conversation? Lines are popping already. Let's go to them. Hello, you're on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you're calling from?
Calling from Aurora, Illinois. I'm watching you now. Wait, TV.
Talk to us, baby.
Oh, well, I was calling in about what's going on with you and Netflix.
Okay, well, talk to us.
Well, I'm a supporter of yours,
We appreciate that, sis. We truly appreciate that.
and I can't wait for you to get back out there.
Well, you know, I never left.
To do it, but I want you out there some kind of way.
Well, I never left. I've still been touring, never stopped touring, baby. So actually, if you're in Houston, Texas, I'll be there this weekend at the Improv Comedy Club.
So I'm on your Twitter. How do I get, do you have a website so I can check out where you'll be touring?
Yes, indeed. Website is www.moniqueworldwide.com.
Monique Worldwide. I'll get it up now, and if you're in Illinois soon, I'd definitely be coming to see you.
Thank you, sweetness.
It may be a momentary delay because it's going to be up in about 24 to 48 hours. So if you don't see it, stop back through in about a day or so, and we're going to be rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I really, I don't know what to say, but I want you guys back somewhere like Netflix, Hulu, what is the other one called? Hulu, or somewhere. It's just a shame that they.
You know, but I'll say this. When you do see us, you'll know it made sense.
Okay.
When you do see us, you'll know it made sense. And also, I will be in Chicago November 16th and 17th at the Improv. So make sure if you get a chance, come on out, baby.
Me and my son will be there.
Thank you, sweetness.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, y'all, we talking about it. We talking about it. How do we fix issues if we're not willing to talk about them? How do we make it better? And right now, with the climate that's going on, I'm going to say in the world, I think instead of us really talking about it, we're so ready to throw away and be done.
Right.
And it's just like, well, move on. Let's just move on. Well, you can't move on if you're not dealing with what's happening. And I think that's why it continues to happen and why we continue to be in the state that we're in, because we're too afraid to have the real conversations.
That's it. You want to go to the line?
Let's go to the lines. Hey, you're on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you're calling from?
Hi, Auntie and Uncle and Auntie Robin. This is Israel.
Hey,
Hey,
baby.
Hi. The only way you can resolve an issue without discussing it is to ignore it. And that's the one thing that you don't want to do, because when you ignore an issue, it's not going to be resolved. So there is no way to discuss issue without discussing it. There is no way of doing that. Every issue, I don't care if a child wants a cookie, that's an issue. How do they do it? They don't just sit there and just ignore it. They get up, they go to the cookie jar, and they point to it, or they knock it over, whatever results needed. But at least they are going forward and doing something and making an action towards the resolution of said issue.
Next level question to that, how do you have that conversation?
I have that conversation as bluntly as possible, because if I skirt tail around it, then it's going to be misconstrued as me not taking it, as them having the ability to not take what I'm trying to resolve seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't sit there and say, well, you know, there was no way for, like you mentioned all the time, Harriet Tubman, to calmly and quietly resolve slavery. She could just say, well, you know, guys, we really don't want to be slaves, so what do you think about it? I try to help us get out of here. What are your opinions on that? No. We're on a railroad. If y'all want to get the heck out of here with me, this is the way. If you don't, I got to kill you because you can't let me tell somebody about this. But the point is, you know, she made a decision.
Yes.
And your conversation, I'm sorry, go ahead, honey.
No, I was just saying yes.
Oh, and her conversation has to be direct. It has to be to the point. Okay? If I'm standing on the curb and there's a bus coming and I don't see it, and I'm about to step out on the curb, I expect my auntie and my uncle and my wife to take their arm and do a soccer mom fade and put me back on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting to call me, well, baby, there's a bus coming. Did you need to? No. The conversation has to be blunt. Get the heck out the way of the bus. You know, it has to be like that.
Yes. And what do you think is stopping us from being just that blunt?
Fear. Fear of losing money. Fear of not getting the money that we think we should have. And fear of being different. That's been the problem with us all of our lives. We've been beaten down, battered, and broken because we're not like everybody else. Because we're different. And you know, history has proven that no one likes different. Even the Irish immigration had a problem with the KKK. The French had a problem with the KKK when they came over. Everyone has had a problem with anyone who is different. Well, I believe one race has had a problem, but the point is, different is what scares people.
Yes.
So if I stand up for you, how will they look at me? Will that affect my job? Will that affect my friends? Will that affect my family? You know, and the fear of being of going against the grain or swimming upstream is what keeps so many people quiet or makes them run to the other side and say, oh, just let it go. Just, you know, how are we going to talk about this until it's done?
Come on, baby. That's why we love you, Mama. Tell Peaches we say hey.
All right now.
All right, baby. She made an amazing point.
Mm-hmm.
You keep talking until it's done. And with this whole racism right now, we haven't talked enough. We haven't talked, in my humble opinion, I don't think we've talked enough, and I don't think we've said the real root. We keep on brushing it over. We keep on it's almost like, yeah, we know it's there, but throw them away and let's just not talk about it and let's move on. And that's why we keep staying right here.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly why.
We're talking about it, babies. How do you solve or resolve issues if we're not willing to talk about it? How do we resolve it if we're not willing to talk about it? You know, and y'all know I'm always sharing my personal stories with y'all because it affects me personally. Shit. So I have a brother, right? And my brother's name is Steve. And I remember when Steve was my manager in Hollywood. And there were a lot of decisions being made that were just unexplained to me. And there were so many decisions being made that were unexplainable to me that I had to eventually fire my brother, right? And it really put a damper on our relationship. We hadn't spoken in some time. Then he actually went to prison and did some time in prison for whatever those charges were, whatever happened. And I remember when he got out of prison, he called me up and he said to me, I want us not to deal with or talk about anything that happened. I just want us to move forward. And I had to say to my brother, then you need not call and we need not talk, because how do we move forward when we haven't talked about what yesterday was that got us to this place? So we're dealing with this today because it's so much going on, and oftentimes we're unwilling or too afraid to say, let's really have this conversation. And at the end of the conversation, it may not go the way you wanted it to go. It may end up saying, listen, you got to go your way, I got to go my way, but at least we understand one another.
At least we understand one another. And in addition to that, part of the issues that folks are having with others is they're making blunt accusations about people without knowing the full story. They don't know that person. And as an example, there's a comfortability in our society to want to know negative things about people, but are disinterested in hearing the positive things. And there was recently in the pastors had gone and met with President Trump. And they taken a lot of heat because they sat down and they met with them. Now, as far as I know, nobody came out and say, he's the most incredible guy, he's the best guy. Everyone had an agenda to speak with him in reference to, I know John Gray, Pastor John Gray had a concern in reference to prison reform and things of that nature. And people are giving this man and those pastors a lot of heat. Listen, how in the world are you going to resolve the issues that are affecting our community if we don't have that discussion? Like, I'm not the guy that's about any religion. I'm about the thinking of treat people in the way you want to be treated. And I gotta fully support this man for what, and those men for what they're trying to do. And please, we gotta support these gentlemen because, you know, you'll hear the heat because somebody done touched a child wrong.
Come on.
Okay, they done took pictures with their shirt off and sent it to young men.
They shouldn't do that.
Shouldn't do it. Done stole money.
No.
Out of the pot.
Thieving ass.
They need a $19,800,000,000,000 jet to fly where they got to go.
Jesus' ass better be flying that one.
But the day they want to take their time out and talk to an individual who may be difficult to get through, y'all gonna bash them, not uplift them and say, we appreciate you approaching this difficult situation. But because you would be fearful, or you have trepidations, or you don't want your friends to see you talking to old Donald Trump because they might think that you talking to him is means that you trying to sell out, but what you trying to do is speak up for your people.
Come on, y'all. Come on.
So all we're saying is think about the fact that you cannot resolve anything without having a discussion. And since when we were children, boy, we couldn't wait to be 18, then 21, and then 25. Because then we 21, then they gonna come up with the club 25. And you like, oh, now I thought I done got over They keep moving the finish line. Now we over 25, but we want to act like we 15. And everything that's said, it offends us. We hurt by it. And when you hear things like Roseanne, because Monique, you a coon from the moon.
They said the bitches out here cooning.
You a coon from the moon, and Sidney's a part of the platoon. Okay?
I like it.
That's what we are, okay? But then you hear them talking about Roseanne. She's got to be racist. She dressed up like Hitler. The question I would pose to y'all is, if you hear a black man call another black man, or a black person call another black person a nigger, are they racist? Because I've even heard white people say, well, how come you get an opportunity to get the taste of that word nigger coming out of your tongue into the universe, and I can't just say it? Because you're not one of us, and you can't do it.
Come on.
That's what's said back to them. Now here's what's crazy. When you hear about Roseanne dressing up as Hitler, Because what I've heard was the reason why we use that word nigga is because we turn it around on them and we use it to let them know it ain't affecting us.
Come on.
I don't know if that's just an urban myth and if y'all really have heard that, but that's what I've heard amongst the community that we live. Now, that being the case, when a woman, and Roseanne, dresses up like Hitler, but she is a Jew.
Come on.
Just so you know, Roseanne Barr is Jewish. Then what that means, the joke came before her being Jewish, and she was saying, I'm gonna let them know that just because I'm Jewish, I'm not thinking about no stinking ass Hitler. I'm not worried about that man. But when you don't know everything about folks,
you jump right to
it. Because that would be like you not knowing I'm black and I call somebody a nigga and you like, white boy, you can't call him. Hey, I'm black. My hue might be light. You just assume that it's no way a woman that could be construed and has self-admittedly at times called herself white trash. It's no way in the world that woman could be Jewish.
Jewish?
It's no way. No way. That's what people had to think.
Come on.
Come to find out she is. Talk to us. What you think about it?
What y'all think about it? Let's go to the lines. Hey, you're on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you're calling from?
Yeah, this is the Lord. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Hey, Demore. How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing good.
Good.
How do we fix it if we don't talk about it?
Talk to us.
Well, I just want to say, in reference to talking about it, I think it has to start on the micro level first before you can get people to advocate on it on the macro level. So in the conversation, you got to understand who your audience is that you're even having a conversation with. Some people are not capable of being reciprocal with an intellectual conversation without getting emotions involved, and then anger starts to build up, and then voices start to get raised. I think it causes an issue. So if you're talking about on the big scope of things, why are we not talking about it? Well, I feel like it has to start on the micro first. You have people that can't even advocate in their own households. So then on a larger level, you're talking about advocating for justice, for social justice, for equality, equal rights, etc. Whatever the case may be, I just feel like that, people don't have that mentality to really do so. They're not advocating for themselves, so how are they advocating for others? And the conversation really makes people uncomfortable because everybody wants to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And how would you suggest, and very appreciate that right spot on, how would you suggest people get out of their own way and stop worrying about being wrong?
Well, first they have to get past the stereotypes that they've been embedded with, and sometimes it grows up from childhood. Expectations that other people put on them, demands that society puts on them, and they own it as if they are now part of that, and they become that. It's like a form of group thought, of group think. And so what they would first have to do in order to get out of their own way, they would have to realize that it's okay to step away from the herd and be an individual and have your own opinion and ideologies about things. And it's okay to not even know sometimes, because a lot of us, we like to always have it figured out, but it's also okay to not have it figured out and just admit that to yourself. You know what? I don't even know. And then let that start a conversation.
Come on now.
We love you, Brother Demore.
Thank you for the call, brother.
Hey, love y'all too, man. Love you, Monique and Sidney, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, baby. Come on.
And to build on what he's saying, and then in the process, if you find out you're wrong, because no one does like to be wrong. They are, I believe, right. But once you find out you're wrong, dropping your ego and saying, because I'm looking for what's right, I want to tell you I apologize because I approached you wrong. See, there's nothing, as our brother just so eloquently said, there's nothing wrong with being wrong when you don't know that you're wrong. But the moment that you know that you are wrong, everything is wrong with not admitting to the fact that the other person is right.
Oh, we're talking about it, babies. How do we fix it if we're not willing to talk about it? And I think too, right now, because just reading the comments in the rooms, and they're saying, you know, well, they didn't go in there and they didn't really speak up, and they didn't really, well, were you really in there? You know, and the question remains is,
Who didn't speak up?
they were saying the pastors really didn't go in there. I was just reading the comments in the room. They didn't really go in and speak up on the agenda or speak up. We're so quick to jump to what went wrong instead of what could possibly be going right.
And despite the fact that you may have addressed the issues differently, because we keep getting in a habit of condemning people because they didn't approach their issue or concern in the way that you would have approached it. But the mere fact that they approach it when most retreat, we should give them credit for that, because they could have ignored it. And no one would have known everything, and we would have been fine with that. But what they did was they gave it a shot. Did it work out? No. But let it not work out because he did not take heed to what they were trying to share with him. Don't allow it to work out because you in the community are attacking someone or people that are trying to uplift the community. And you've not done that. So not until you take the time to sit there and understand everything that they get a chance to share with you. Don't be mad with people because you don't like the person, because they're trying to work things out for the people. They're trying to work things out for the people, but because you don't like the person they're working that out with, you're going to dislike the one that's trying to help out the people by talking to the one you don't like. That doesn't make sense.
And again, my loves, let's not be so quick because we don't agree to throw away. Let's go to the lines. Hey, you're on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you're calling from?
Los Angeles.
What's your name, baby?
Toya.
Hey, Toya, talk to us.
How you doing?
Wonderful.
I don't think that you could really resolve an issue without speaking on it or approaching it, because what happens is folks tend to build resentment if it's not spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys don't talk about it. Now, if you're dealing with someone who doesn't want to discuss it, then you just may have to take that loss and, chuck it up and, keep pushing. At least you tried.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think we've gotten away from trying. It's almost like, okay, we have a disagreement and it's done. And then you go years without ever discussing what the disagreement was, and now 20 years go by, and when you finally discuss it, you then realize this wasn't that heavy to begin with.
Right. You could have been loving on each other that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, baby.
Someone was upset, or someone was stubborn.
Right.
And didn't want to discuss it.
That ego is a dangerous thing, Mama. We love you, sis.
We love you.
I love you too, Monique, and thank you guys. I love you too, Sidney. Have a good one.
You too, baby.
And again, the acronym for ego is expectations gone overboard. Savannah Double X had said, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, we got to learn how to attack the argument and not the person.
Wow.
And that's the key. Attack the issues, but don't attack the person. Because when we learn how to attack the issue, then we learn how to have objective conversation.
But you know what, Daddy? I think I'm guilty of that, or I've been guilty of that, in attacking the person and not the issue, because I didn't know how to separate it. Like I didn't know how to separate.
Right. Well, it's the equivalent of somebody threw a baseball at you and they hit you in your head with it. Attacking the issue is like attacking the baseball. That baseball ain't do shit to me.
Right.
So I'm going to bang you in the face because you threw the baseball at me. But the issue is the thing that you're dealing with, which is, I don't mean to confuse you, you've got to attack the issue, okay?
Because I was smack that bitch in the mouth.
Right. Because she said it and she created the issue with what she said. I know. But we don't want to smack her in the mouth, because if you do, the prison time ain't worth it.
Come on.
You did?
Keep me out.
Come on.
How do we fix issues if we're not willing to talk about it? And Hey, you're on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you're calling from?
Hey, what's up, Monique? My name is Sean. I'm calling from Las Vegas.
Hey, LaShawn, how you doing, baby?
Hey, pretty good. First thing I just want to say, grew up on you. My dad used to listen to you all the time. Still probably does. But I know we're discussing right now about solving problems without discussing them, and it's very prevalent. I'm mixed, half white, and recently one of my friends from my hometown in South Bend, Indiana, he accused me of being a racist because I'm a little bit right leaning. But a lot of that came from like me being in the military, running away from home when I was 16, moving to California, and now I own a business, and it's a fairly successful business to where I could sustain myself and my family and everything. And I think that the best thing a lot of times whenever it comes to problems, that the problems are derived from inside the individual who's creating the problem. And that they're becoming like the other guy that was talking before. It becomes a big group think, and everybody wants to find the thing that's wrong instead of finding the thing that's right, just like you said, Monique. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to realize that, like, as I progress in my life, I'm 29 and I have a business, and hopefully I get to go worldwide with it, just like you, Monique, and be able to thrive. And I can see that there's a certain aura of like cops, white cops shooting black people, and a lot of bigotry and racism going on. And the people who see that are part of the black community are saying, holy shit, that can happen to me. And that's what's lowering their self-esteem, as like Kanye West would say, or so on. And with that, it just happens in the individual instead of happening outside of the individual. So the only thing I could say in order to fix that issue is to have more self-confidence and understand that there's nothing holding you back. We had a black president.
Well, and you're right about that. And within the boundaries of everything that you said, there's a reason to be hopeful. But the hope doesn't come from just us hoping. The hope comes from us using our gray matter to, as opposed to using technology to bring out the iPhone 900, we need to use that same brain power to find a way to get along with one another. Because part of the problem with the world is that we don't know when enough is enough. We live in a capitalist society, which to most people means that you have an opportunity to capitalize in such a way that you can live the proverbial American dream. But capitalism starts to be predatorial, a predatorial stance in which people are using to capitalize on others' weaknesses. It's the reason why a storm will come and now milk has gone up to $10, but before it was $1, because we're capitalizing. So when we as a people get used to feeling the comforts associated and or discomfort for some, advantage of others, of this mere word called equality, okay? When we start being comfortable with the uncomfortability associated with equality, watch the world change. See, the underdogs, they are going to be very comfortable with equality, but it's the overlords that are uncomfortable with it because they need something to distinguish themselves as superior from those who are just average. So when we are able to articulate that, would you be uncomfortable if you still had yours, but I was able to have mine too, and see if we can work something out, then perhaps we can make some changes.
We love you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Come on, y'all. We're talking about it. How do we resolve issues if we're not even willing to talk about it? How do we make it better? And me personally, I grew up like that. I grew up in a household that nothing got resolved. We just swept it under the carpet and we kept moving forward until that carpet became so goddamn lumpy you couldn't walk on it no more because nothing was ever dealt with. So you take childhood situations and they become adulthood holdbacks because they were never dealt with. So now you're dealing with issues and situations that's 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, and you'll hear people say, just move on. Damn, let it go. But you're saying, well, we never even dealt with it. So those feelings are still there. And those feelings are still very real, but we were never mature enough or courageous enough to say, okay, let's sit down and let me really understand what you think and how you feel. You said the word nigga, but now tell me how you really feel. Tell me what's really happening.
What you mean by it?
What you mean by it?
Because if a person cowers down and they said, I didn't mean anything, but they really did, it tells you about their conviction in reference to what they said. Because there's some folks out here now with the Klan and white nationalist group that are very comfortable with no hood on. They got that button-down shirt and say, I don't get down like that. Well, personally, I prefer the guy that comes out and says, with no mask on, I don't like black people. But I don't feel the need to want to fight him. But I would be interested in knowing, what is it about black people that you don't like? Because when you say you don't like black people, the only thing that you can say that is consistent with all black people is that they're black.
Mm.
But there are no other consistencies with black people any more than there are with any other color of people. The things that we're involved in, the things that we like, the criminals, the success stories, the whole nine. They're pretty much balanced around. So what is it that you don't like? And when we become strong enough to not be so insecure that when we hear things that we don't agree with, that could also be to a lesser person in spirit, offensive. When we find ways not to be so quickly offended, what we've just spoke about is how strong we are, while at the same time you are witnessing, you are exposing the weaknesses in someone else when they're unable to have the conversation. And I end with this. If you notice, whenever you have a conversation with somebody who may have initiated something with you and they knew it wasn't the right thing, but you stayed on it, they started backing up out of it, or they owned it. One of the two. So that speaks to their character. So when we say, listen, from Lee Daniels, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, the same thing we said from the beginning has not ended. We don't dislike them. Love them, because those are our brothers and sisters. But you have to ask yourself, how in the world can you resolve something with people that won't have a conversation with you, and then when you have one of them on audio saying that they were wrong, they're saying that they were wrong, but the world is attacking a woman saying you are wrong for reporting the one or part of the group that helped assassinate your career. You wrong for having him on audio proving what you're saying right.
Make that make sense. Why are we so afraid to discuss the issues if it can resolve the problems? Let's go to the lines.
One of our sisters just, I believe, wrote, how do you stay calm when you are sharing something with someone and they don't see your point? Remember, that's all you're doing. You're sharing it with them. Don't be upset if they don't agree with you. All you can do is put it out there. You did your part. Listen, if they don't take it, that's okay. That's how you stay empowered.
I'm learning that, y'all. Okay, I'm learning that because he said, Mama, you don't have to convince. You just have to share. What they do with it is up to them. Because I'll be like, bitch, why don't you get this? Like, it'll save your life. All you got to do is share it. What they do is up to them. Let's go to the lines. Hey, you're on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you're calling from?
Hi, Monique and Sidney. This is Kyle calling from Petersburg, Virginia. How are you?
Kyle, we're wonderful.
Super.
Awesome. So I have a question more so to this. If you have an issue and you're trying to resolve this issue that you have with this one particular person, I noticed in your previous podcast you spoke on your relationship with your mom.
Yes.
Right? I have an issue or been having issues and challenges with my mom ever since I was little. And I want to resolve this issue because this is something in which I care a lot about. I love my mom, but she's not ready to have the conversation, an honest, genuine, sincere conversation, and a conversation in which will consist of accountability and responsibility. So I've been trying to heal from this toxic relationship, but I want to heal, and I want to heal with her, and I want us to heal together. But she's not ready. So how do I seek that peace, and how do I heal from this relationship with a person that means so much to you, but is not ready to have the conversation?
You know, I can only speak to you from my experience. And I can remember, baby, for years, I kept trying to have that open and honest conversation with my mother. And it was very toxic because I would get frustrated and I would get angry and it would bring me to tears and it would be very emotional because I felt like, why can't you get this?
Yes.
Until one day I had to understand just how toxic it was to me. And it was beginning to affect me with my family.
Yes.
Because I was taking that sickness into my family.
Yes.
Not consciously.
Yes.
But unconsciously because I'm trying to deal with this hurt, so I'm bringing this hurt inside.
Yes.
Until one day, brother, I had to make probably one of the hardest decisions, but it may have been one of the best decisions.
Yes.
And I had to say to my mother, I'll love you forever, but as long as it's this way, I have to let go. And when I tell you, baby, that took some years to get to. Next to me, he came into my life that way. He came into that confusion and that sickness and that place of I was totally losing control of me. And he said to me, Mama, I'll never ever tell you to walk away from your mother. That's a decision you have to make on your own. But whatever way you go, I'll support it.
Yes.
So I had to get to a place, baby, where I had to let go and have no regret in the letting go. Now I got to share this with you. My mother passed June the 5th.
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that. Yes.
Thank you, baby. So we're never in that place where we can go back.
Yes.
But it's funny that we're having this conversation because I said to Sid this morning while we were in the closet, I said, Daddy, I said, I haven't mourned her. And I don't miss her. And I said, am I crazy? Like, is something wrong with me because of that? But then I had to understand I mourned my mother while she was alive.
Come on.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I mourned us. I went through the crying phase. I went through the I miss you phase. So when she actually transitioned, I was already okay with it. So you can't bring somebody along, baby, that doesn't want to be brought along, even when it's our mothers.
It's been so many years that we have went without having a conversation, and it's been so many times that I've wanted to just say to Ma, listen, I get it, you were young, you didn't know, but Ma, I just need for you to hold yourself accountable. I just need for you to say, Ma, I need for you to say, Kyle, I'm sorry. And I guess that's still what I'm looking for as that little kid that's in me. I'm 24. That little kid that's in me is still waiting for his mother to just hold him and say, baby, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Kyle, I'm sorry. You know, I made a mistake. You know, I messed up. That's what I'm waiting for, but I clearly understand that may never happen. So that little boy in me is going to have to grow up, because I'm no longer that little boy. I'm a grown man now, and I have responsibilities and things that I'm doing. And, you know, in my journey, I'm finding myself in so many places, especially within my relationships, that that relationship has trickled on over into so many different areas in my life, and it's causing so many different issues in my life, and it's like it always goes back to that. So yeah.
And also, one of the things that can help us is when we understand that we are no one to get everything our way.
Right.
And through the numerous things that we receive,
Right.
you sound like a guy that whatever you didn't get, you got a warm heart.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a strong mind. It sounds like you've got some drive and you're looking for positivity, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be sitting here having the conversation in the loving manner that you're having in reference to your mother.
Yeah.
However, sometimes people are pushing you away, and that's the universe's way of saying, you take care of you right now, so that if you get powerful enough, when they reflect on what they've done, if they ever do,
Right.
you're not only strong enough to receive the apology
Yeah.
if they give it to you, but you're strong enough to move on if you don't receive it.
Yes.
So either way, I can tell you're strong enough to take it either way, but you can only do what you can do.
Yeah.
And if they choose not to be willing in that, what can you do other than take their advice, move on, and you might leave them with a message: whenever you're ready, Ma, I'ma love you, and I'm waiting on you. But you got some splaining to do, Lucy. You got some splaining to do.
Oh,
We
baby.
love you, brother.
Thank y'all. I really do. And before I get off the phone, I just want to thank y'all. Real talk. I know you always end it off with, thank you for listening. Nah, thank y'all for listening. Like, thank y'all for really listening and taking the time out to have these real conversations, because it's a lot of people that really need to hear the real conversation. So I want to thank y'all for just being full of love, empathy, full of peace, and full of humility. Thank y'all. I really appreciate it.
We love you, baby.
We love you.
All right.
All right, honey. Bye-bye. Okay. Damn it. I was doing so good.
You still doing good.
Because
you are just so terrible that you would have the nerve to connect with people to a degree where it touches you when you hear them telling the truth. You are a travesty.
But I want to talk to the mothers.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if y'all are listening. And I wasn't always the best mother. I wasn't always signed up in the line to get the Mother of the Year award. So I want to talk to the mothers. Are we hearing our children? When our children are saying, can you just be accountable? I'm not trying to put you in prison for it, but I just want you to be accountable so that I know we in this together. So I understand what that 24-year-old baby is saying when he's saying, Ma, can you just be accountable so that we can move forward? Because it's hard to move forward, y'all, when you don't take accountability, because you're always looking at that person and you're saying, I don't know if I can trust you, believe you, depend on you, because you never owned it. So for the mothers out there, when y'all hear that baby and the love in his heart, and he's saying, can you just hear me? Are we paying attention? Let's go. We're going to go to the lines, y'all. How do we fix it if we're not willing to talk about it? Okay, Daddy. Now, shit. Because.
And if we again drop our egos and stop being so afraid of being wrong, when you're wrong, try this. Now you found me out. I'm actually human. And let them know that's my bad. And it's not as heavy as you made it. And part of the spreading of us accepting disrespect is because we are sometimes very disrespectful to our children, and we teach them how to take disrespect. We don't teach them about receiving respect. See, we'll tell them, don't let someone disrespect you. And then 5 minutes by the clock, you'll say something that disrespects your child.
Come on.
But you can't be disrespectful to them, get them conditioned to an authoritative voice that is disrespectful, have them to respect authority, and then at the same time, in their respect for authority, not have them be built in and plugged into being complacent and just saying whatever, yes to whatever you say. Why? Because they had to say yes to whatever you say.
Come on.
So there's a way, though, we're parents, because as parents, we've had to do something that our parents, when we were kids, would never do. And that's say, we were wrong. I apologize. I looked at it the wrong way. But that forms trust.
Yes.
So that they know, at the very least, we got to let mom or dad know what we're actually saying, because they ain't seeing it yet. We know if they see what we saying and we right, they gonna get it, but don't go to them with some jive, because it's gonna be a problem. If we start focusing on treating our kids like humans, though they are children, though they have to listen, but treat them respectfully, we'd be surprised what happens.
Oh, we're going to the lines. That just made me think about that day with David in the kitchen with Jonathan. I'm going to tell y'all when we come back. Hey, you on with Monique and Sidney. Who's this and where you calling from?
Hello?
Hey, baby.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, Monique, how you doing?
Wonderful.
Monique, hi. First, I want to say to you and your husband, I am a big fan of you. Monique, if you was paying money, I know all of your interviews. I know everything about you.
Thank you, baby.
But I want to just ask you some questions, Monique, but I don't want you to get upset with me.
No.
And this is a question from fans, because I know I don't want you to read or clap back at me. First of all, Monique, I feel that Jada Pinkett is from Baltimore, Maryland, right?
Yes.
I will want you to go on her show. I want you to put that in your journal that you should go on the red table. See what she has you. Because that's a wife. And then, Monique, I was like, I seen your interview. I seen Lee Daniels' interview when he said, shut up. I was like, well, Monique said that Lee Daniels don't owe her any money, and she took what he gave her. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, well, why is she still, I know why you're mad with him, like he's mad with you, but I was trying to see, do he owe you any money? Do Oprah owe you any money? Do Tyler Perry owe you any money for you still to keep, doing the thing? Like, I was trying to figure out I'm not telling you to be quiet or go away, but the way you're going on is like they owe you some money. But you said in your past interviews that you took what your friend had, the budget. And I was trying to figure out, like, Lee Daniels said he paid her.
Let me know whenever you're ready for me to answer, baby, because I want to make sure, I get all your questions in.
Well, those are the three things I want to know. Did Lee owe you any money? Did Tyler? Or did Oprah? And I would want you to go on Jada's show.
Okay.
How you can answer.
Now, thank you, baby. The red table, I absolutely love it. And I know that me and Sister Jada are going to hook up eventually. Because that show is just amazing. In reference to Lee Daniels, Oprah Winfrey, and Tyler Perry owing me any money, no, they don't owe me any money. I signed up to do that movie Precious for $50,000. I was promised 5% on the back end. I was paid the $50,000 that I signed up for. The back end never really took place. Never ever said they owe me any money. What I have said was they took part in throwing a sister under the bus. And when you say that I'm difficult and demanding, as Lee Daniels has said, that has really hurt my career.
May I? Well,
I remember your brother so well going on, because I was with my whole family when we watched Pressure.
But wait a minute, baby, we want to answer it in full for you, so that we make sure you get it. Go ahead, Daddy.
Yeah. I think you asked an incredible question because
I'm scared to get a response from Sidney.
No, baby, no. But this is what the show is about, and that's what's beautiful.
Well, that's why we saying, how can you resolve things without a discussion?
Yes.
So it's nothing but love. I think you asked a great question because, in your opinion, if a person doesn't owe you anything, it's very difficult to complain about them. Would you not agree? Well, I'm assuming that was kind of your point. Like, how do you complain about people that don't owe you anything, right?
No, I know what Monique's saying because
No, when you asked, why did you ask, did Oprah, Lee, or Tyler owe her anything?
because it's like Monique when because I'm a really big fan of Monique. Like I said, if Monique was paying money, I will win. I see all of her interviews. It's almost like I like to hear her break it down. When Monique break it down, she break it down with class. And she break it down. I was like, okay, Monique done a new interview. She did another interview with Dee Dee, but y'all haven't posted yet this week. So when I asked her, because when it came up with him and Damon Dash, Monique started retweeting stuff about money, and I kept saying, well, why he don't owe her no money?
Well,
he really didn't owe Damon Dash any money.
Well, she never retweeted about money. He just chose to say
So she
should
retweeted
shut
like, see y'all, I wanted y'all to see the truth. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Monique, so I've been watching her for years.
I want to stay with it because your question can actually help other people. So in you answering it, you're actually helping other people who may have the same question. My point is, would you think it makes sense? Would it make sense for Monique to have a problem with someone who owed them nothing? Would that make sense?
Well, Monique feels, I know why Monique has a problem with it.
It's a yes or no question. I'm trying to help you understand the situation with just a yes or no question of your.
No, I don't think Monique just to be making this up.
No, I'm not talking about Monique. Let's just keep it vanilla. Would it make sense for someone to have a problem with another person for a reason that is beyond anyone's knowledge because no one owed anyone anything? Would that be strange that someone would have a problem with you but you don't owe them anything? Would that be strange for you?
Yes, that would be strange, yes.
Okay, thank you. Because what Monique is essentially saying is, it is strange that she would be called difficult to work with when she's executed everything she was contractually obligated to do, and she had no contractual obligation, meaning, in layman's term, Lee Daniel was correct. He fulfilled all of his contractual obligations to Monique. However, on the flip, Monique fulfilled all of her contractual obligations. It was the freebies that made her look difficult because they bought the movie.
I'm not going to say Monique was difficult because I'm going to be honest.
No, sir. What I need you to do, but see, part of.
I don't want nobody to think y'all saying this. Because me, I love Whoopi Goldberg, but she's difficult.
Well,
let me say just something real quick. See, here's what happens, my baby. Here's what happens.
Whoopi's out.
No, but let me just say this. Here's what happens, and here's what I had to learn for myself so I understand it. Oftentimes, when we make statements, we've already made up in our mind what the answer is. So we have a hard time listening to the other person because we've already made up in our mind what the answer is. And I appreciate you calling and you saying, well, Monique, if they don't owe you nothing, baby, what are you still talking about? Because you're still going on. That was your initial in the beginning. And it's never where we want to read or put nobody in their place. When you say you're still going on, well, because the reason why I am still going on and will continue to go on is because those three people allowed something to go down that they knew was incorrect.
And even perpetuated the rumor. So, that being the case, all we're saying to folks out.
I saw when your brother was on Oprah. It was like 08 and 09 or around that time.
But this is
like I said, my whole family watched the interview, and I asked my grandmother. I said, Grandma, what you would have did if your son would have did that to your daughter? I said, if you was in Monique's mother's shoes, what would you would have done to him? And she didn't really have her. She said, well, he was still her child. What you wanted her to do? He's still wow. That's it. Well, why Monique didn't say this in '09 or 2010? Why would she get on a public stage and tell these people to do this in 2017? Her brother went on Oprah in '08, '09. So why would Monique wait all these years to bring this up now? That just didn't make sense to me. I don't care what nobody say, Monique. I still
To bring what up, baby? Because right now you're
I
not.
believe Miss Sophia has called us and is pranking us.
I believe so, baby.
This is Miss Sophia on the phone pranking us.
Everything you done to me gonna come back to you because I'm trying to follow you, and you're saying this happened in '09. Why is Monique bringing this up? I'm not sure I'm following you,
But
baby.
it's okay. Listen, if we haven't answered your question.
You went on Oprah Winfrey in 2008 or 2009.
Yes.
And you said you was not ready. To me, Oprah is a talk show. She don't have to green light, I'm going to interview your cousin. She don't really have to. Wendy Williams doesn't do that. But see, Monique, if she interviewed your brother, you should have been happy that she called you. I don't think.
Okay, wait a minute. And see this. Wait a minute, sweetness. But let me address it because this is where.
Do you understand? But this guy right here is why we say you gotta have patience with people.
Yes.
Because what happens is.
I'm gonna listen. I'm sorry, Marie. I'm gonna listen.
Well, I want you to listen because what happens is if you already make up your mind, you're not open to hearing anything. And I'm not judging it. I've been guilty of it myself. When you say to me, well, Monique, she didn't have to call you about your brother. And if you are truly a fan, my baby,
like you've been listening
to all the interviews, well, let me give it to you again because I want to make sure you clearly get it. When Oprah Winfrey called me up, she said, your brother called me and he wants to come on the show. If you say no, I will scratch the show. I said, sister, you didn't have to call. That's cool, but the nigga I know, he's up to some slick shit. We chuckled about it. We talked about some other personal things. That was it. Oprah Winfrey never said to me, I'm going to have your mother. I'm going to have your father. I'm going to have your other brother. Now, what you should have asked your grandmother was, Grandmama, what would you have done had this woman called you up and played like she was your good girlfriend?
Come on.
But never made mention she was going to have your mother when you and your mother, as I told Oprah, I want you to hear me. I want you to hear me, baby. I want you to hear me.
But this is.
I want you to hear me. Though my mother was in the audience, my mother was flown to the Oprah Winfrey show, as my father was. My mother was made a part of the show. See, oftentimes we're quick to speak on things we don't know, brother. And this is not a read. This is not me telling you off. This is me telling you what it is. So when you asked your grandmother that question, the right question may have been to ask, Grandmama, how would you have felt had somebody called you up and said, I'm going to have this person on the show? Then, Grandmama, you tell them about your relationship with these people. They make no mention to you about these people because had Oprah Winfrey said to me, Monique, I'm going to have your mother, I would have said to Oprah Winfrey, listen, I don't need the world seeing my mother look desperate. I don't need the world seeing my father be a drunk. I don't need the world seeing my other brother sit there and it's about...
That's from your excuse, Monique. You ran to like other people and told them about your rape. Your mother said she was, blindsided by all this. I heard everything, Monique. You didn't want her to be on that set, but you was telling other people about your rape and all that.
This is weird.
But this is...
It don't really make sense. I'm still a fan of your Monique.
Thank you for calling in, brother. But this is you are a prime example of why we say that folks, you gotta be patient with them.
Yes.
And this is why you share what you share. And if they don't get it, it's okay, because what happens is every time we get a caller like this, anyone who's invested in this thing called logic sees that Oprah's behavior what is being exposed. We don't want to make it seem like she's a terrible person. But every time someone calls, and maybe you think you're doing them a favor, but you're not, because what you're doing is you're exposing to the world why we can't stop having this conversation until they are bold enough to have a conversation with us and say, point out our wrong.
Yes.
Because if we were wrong, we'll say, you know what? Thank you for taking the time, Super Soul Sunday, for coming out and letting us know that we were wrong. If not, admit that you're wrong. Now we've got on audio Tyler saying he was wrong. All we're saying is, what's the problem with letting the world know and we good? When you talking about Super Soul Sundays, healing the world,
Master classes. I'm going to teach a town how to love each other.
We got to teach the town how to love. Then if we're going to teach the town how to love,
come on,
be loving enough to tell the truth about a woman that looks like you. About the woman that you said, Oprah Winfrey, when I look at you, I'm looking at myself.
Come on.
So when you have these real conversations with these people that folks put up on a pedestal, that you should not put them up on a pedestal. You're doing them a disservice because they now don't know how to come down off of it. Because a long ass climb up.
Come on.
It's a long ass climb down, rather, to get off of to say, you know what, I made a mistake. And for some people, they think, you know what, I ain't going to take that climb down to let the world know that I'm human. We believe that we're wrong about that fear. That's why we keep talking about, because one day it's going to be springtime and they're going to come out from hiding like it's Groundhog Day and have a real conversation. Because only thing I would ask is, why would 3 people of epic proportions such as them be unwilling to have a conversation with us? With us?
Well, because what they know is they will be exposed.
Well, I wasn't asking you the question.
Okay.
This was rhetorical.
I'm sorry,
No
Daddy.
problem. Didn't need an answer. It's just, why not? And again, it's not them being exposed, because if they came out and told the truth, I really believe that would be the exposure of who they really are, which is decent people fearful of coming down off of that
Come on.
pedestal.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the babies in the room said that was just wasted time. It's not.
Never.
Because what we do is we get a chance to hear our mental illness. We get a chance to hear what we want to hear and not what it really is. That's why I go back to, I can't throw Roseanne Barr away. See, a caller like that, as much as I'm your fan, well, you're not listening. Because if you're really listening, it has nothing to do with being a fan. You're listening for right and wrong.
That's it.
Not my opinion. This is simply what's right and what's wrong. So again, when we say, how do we fix it if we can't even discuss it? And as I said to that caller, if you've already made up your mind what the answer is, it's hard to have a conversation with you. And something else, Daddy, I just want to address really quick.
Kick it.
To the baby that called in, Kyle, with the situation with his mom.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a lot of people, baby, that will have opinions about your relationship with your mother. There will be a lot of people that tell you what you need to do, how you need to do it, all of that. But what we want you to do is follow your heart, baby. Follow your heart and be unafraid to be mentally sane. Even when it involves our mamas, our daddies, our
That's
children, whatever it is, be unafraid to be mentally sane. Daddy, it's that time.
It's that time.
Oh, we love y'all. Baby, we love y'all because y'all could have been doing anything else, but y'all said, you know what? I'm going to hang out with Mo and Sid on Monique and Sidney's open relationship.
Come on.
So tell a friend. Tell another friend, then tell how many?
Mo friends.
10 of them.
Okay.
And keep on spreading.
There it is.
So like my daddy always says, the mind is like a parachute.
It is no good unless it's open.
We love y'all.
For free.